Tonight, we're not talking about the loud parts of getting older, not the celebrations, not the advice people give you without asking. We're talking about the quiet shift that happens when life slows down just enough for you to hear yourself think. When the house is dark, when the day is finally over, and your mind begins to wander in ways it never quite did before. At 55 and beyond, nighttime becomes its own place. A place where memories arrive without warning, where old conversations resurface, where gratitude and regret sometimes sit side by side, not arguing, just existing together. It's the hour when the world stops demanding things from you, but your inner world gently taps on the door, asking to be noticed, asking to be felt, asking, sometimes, simply to be acknowledged before sleep can come. If you've ever stared into the dark and felt that strange mix of peace and heaviness, of calm and reflection, then this moment is for you. This is a space for the thoughts that don't need fixing, only understanding. And now, before we begin, if this kind of honest, gentle reflection speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something comforting about knowing we're all here together, scattered across time zones, but united in these late hours when the world finally grows still. Tonight, we're going to explore that world together. The unspoken world of lying in bed when you're 55 or older. The world that exists between wakefulness and sleep, between today and tomorrow, between who you were and who you're becoming. So settle in, adjust your pillows, find a comfortable position, and know that for the next hour, you're not alone in whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, whatever keeps you awake or stirs you from sleep. Let's begin. You're lying in bed right now. Perhaps it's early evening and you're settling in for the night. Perhaps it's the middle of the night and you've been awake for hours. Perhaps it's that strange twilight time of early morning when the world hasn't quite decided whether it's still night or already day. Wherever you are in this cycle, you know this experience intimately. You know what it means to lie here, in this bed, in this body, at this age, with all the thoughts and sensations and memories that come with it. The bed itself has become a landscape you know better than you'd like. Every dip in the mattress, every place where the sheets tend to bunch, the exact angle your pillow needs to be to support your neck without causing pain by morning. You've mapped this territory through countless nights, through trial and error, through the accumulated wisdom of years spent trying to find comfort. You remember when beds were simpler, when you could fall asleep anywhere, in any position, without consequence, when you could sleep on a couch, on the floor, in a car, and wake up feeling fine. Those days are gone now. Now the bed matters. The mattress matters. The pillows matter. Everything matters because your body has become particular, specific, demanding in its needs. You probably purchased new pillows recently. Multiple pillows, actually. You've tried memory foam and latex and down and synthetic fill. You've tried firm and soft and medium. You've tried pillows designed for side sleepers and back sleepers and stomach sleepers, even though you don't sleep on your stomach anymore because it hurts your neck and your back protests for days afterward. Your closet likely contains a graveyard of rejected pillows. Each one seemed perfect in the store. Each one promised the solution to your sleep problems, and each one, after a few nights, revealed itself to be just slightly wrong. Too high or too low, too firm or too soft, too hot or too lumpy or too something you can't quite name but definitely feel. The pillow you're using right now is fine, just fine, which means it's also not quite right. But you've stopped searching because searching is exhausting, and maybe perfect doesn't exist, and fine will have to be good enough. The same is true of your mattress. You've researched mattress technology more than you ever imagined you would. You know about coil counts, and foam densities, and edge support, and motion isolation. You've lain on display models in showrooms, while salespeople watched with professional patience. You've read reviews online, compared prices, calculated value, and finally made a decision that felt informed and responsible. And now, you lie on this mattress, this expensive investment in sleep health, and you wonder if you should have chosen differently. Maybe the firmer model would have been better for your back. Maybe the one with the cooling gel would have helped with night sweats. Maybe. But the mattress is here, and you're here, and changing it would require energy and money and decision-making capacity you don't have. So this is your mattress now. You've made your bed, quite literally, and now you lie in it. The temperature of the room requires constant negotiation. If you're a woman past menopause, you understand this in your bones. Night sweats are not a metaphor. They're a reality that arrives without warning, transforming you from comfortable to drenched in seconds. You've learned to layer blankets strategically. You've learned to keep the room cooler than feels natural. You've invested in moisture-wicking sheets and breathable pajamas and a fan that runs year-round. If you share your bed with a partner, temperature becomes a diplomatic issue. They're cold, you're hot, or you're both comfortable at different temperatures. The thermostat becomes contested territory. The blankets get pulled and adjusted and redistributed throughout the night. You've had the same conversation about ideal sleeping temperature hundreds of times. You'll have it hundreds more. But even if you sleep alone, temperature is tricky. Your body's internal thermostat has become unreliable. You're hot, then cold, then hot again. You add blankets, remove blankets, add them back. You're conducting a constant negotiation with your own physiology, trying to find some stable equilibrium that keeps shifting just out of reach. And then there's the awareness of your body itself, the way it makes itself known to you now in ways it never did before. When you were younger, you could lie in bed and barely think about your body at all. It was just there, comfortable, cooperative, quiet. Not anymore. Now your body speaks to you constantly. Your lower back aches in certain positions. Your hip protests if you lie on one side too long. Your shoulder stiffens if your arm isn't positioned just right. You have to arrange yourself carefully, deliberately, like a complicated puzzle where all the pieces must fit precisely, or the whole thing fails. You shift positions multiple times before settling. You start on your back, but that makes your lower back hurt, so you roll to your side. But that side gets uncomfortable after a while, so you roll to the other side. but that puts pressure on your shoulder. So you try your back again. And the cycle continues. This constant adjustment, this endless search for a position that doesn't hurt. If you have arthritis, the bed becomes even more complicated. Your joints stiffen during the night. You wake up feeling like your body has locked into position and needs time to remember how to move. You've learned to lie still for a moment upon waking, assessing the damage before attempting movement. You've learned that rushing leads to pain, so you move slowly, carefully, giving your body time to wake up along with your mind. The sounds of the night are different now too. You notice them in ways you never did before. The house settling, the refrigerator cycling on and off, a car passing on the street outside, your partner's breathing beside you, if you have a partner, the sound of your own breathing, the sound of your own heartbeat sometimes, when everything else is quiet enough. These sounds used to fade into background noise. Now they're distinct, noticeable, sometimes intrusive. Your hearing has changed. You don't hear high frequencies as well as you used to, but somehow you hear everything else more acutely, especially at night, especially when you're trying to sleep, and every small sound becomes a potential distraction. If you have tinnitus, there's an additional layer of sound. The ringing or buzzing or hissing that lives in your ears now, constant and unchangeable. It's worse at night, when there's less ambient noise to mask it. You've learned to live with it mostly. You've learned to think of it as the sound of silence, even though it's not silent at all. You've learned that fighting it makes it worse, that acceptance is the only real option. The darkness feels different now too. You used to welcome darkness. It meant rest, peace, escape from the demands of the day. Now darkness can feel oppressive. It amplifies your thoughts. It removes all distraction, leaving you alone with your mind and whatever your mind wants to discuss at 2 a.m, because your thoughts are different at night, more insistent, more willing to explore territories you avoid during daylight hours. The darkness gives them permission somehow, permission to worry, permission to regret, permission to wonder about things that have no answers. You think about time. This is the big one. The thought that arrives uninvited and settles heavily on your chest. Time. How much has passed? How much remains? You've lived more years than you have left to live. This is probably true. The mathematics are clear, even if you don't want to think about them. During the day, you can avoid this knowledge. You stay busy. You focus on immediate concerns. You live in the present, or try to. But at night, lying in bed, there's nowhere to hide from the basic arithmetic of mortality. You're 55 or 60 or 70 or older. You've used up most of your allotment. What remains is precious and limited and slipping away steadily, second by second. This awareness isn't morbid. It's just honest. You're not depressed about it. Not usually. You're just aware. Aware that your body is aging. Aware that your capabilities are diminishing. Aware that the future is shorter than the past. Aware that everyone you love is also aging, also mortal, also temporary. You think about your health. Every small symptom becomes significant in the darkness. That pain in your chest that you barely notice during the day becomes potentially serious at night. Is it heartburn? Is it your heart? Should you be worried? You lie there, conducting an internal inventory, cataloging every sensation, trying to determine what's normal and what's dangerous. Your mind is very good at catastrophizing at night, very skilled at taking small concerns and expanding them into full disasters. That headache becomes a brain tumor. That memory lapse becomes early dementia. That joint pain becomes something systemic and serious. You know you're doing this. You know it's irrational. Knowing this doesn't stop it. You think about your parents. If they're still alive, you worry about them, about their health, their safety, their quality of life. You wonder how much longer you'll have them. You calculate odds you don't want to calculate. If they've already passed, you think about them differently now that you're approaching the age they were when they started declining. You understand them better now. You understand their fears, their frustrations, their silences about what they were experiencing. You've inherited their journey now. You're walking the path they walked, and lying in bed at night, you feel connected to them across time, across the barrier of death if they're gone, understanding finally what they couldn't or wouldn't explain when they were here. You think about your children, if you have them. They're grown now, living their own lives, making their own choices. You're proud of them. You worry about them constantly. You wonder if you were a good enough parent. You remember moments of failure, of impatience, of times you could have done better. These memories are vivid at night, more vivid than the good memories somehow. You want to protect them still, but they don't need your protection anymore, not in the ways they used to. They need you to let them be adults, to respect their autonomy, to offer support without interference. This is harder than it sounds. Your instinct to protect doesn't diminish just because they've grown. It just becomes less welcome, less useful. You think about your marriage, if you're married, the years you've spent together, the ways you've changed, the ways your partner has changed, the ways you've grown together and grown apart and grown together again. Marriage at this age is different than it was at 30. You know each other too well now. You can't hide anymore. Every flaw, every habit, every tendency is visible and familiar. You love your partner. Of course you do. But love after decades is different than early love. It's steadier, less exciting, more comfortable. Sometimes too comfortable. Sometimes so comfortable it verges on invisible, like you take each other for granted because of course you're here. You've always been here. You will always be here. Except that's not true. One of you will leave first. Through death or illness or simply the passage of time, this partnership has an ending. You don't think about this often during the day, but at night, lying beside them, listening to them breathe, you're aware that this is temporary. All of it, temporary and precious, and already moving toward its conclusion. If you're divorced, you think about what went wrong, even if it was years ago. Even if you've moved on, you think about the good years and the bad years and the moment when it became clear that continuing was harder than leaving. You wonder sometimes if you should have tried harder, or left sooner, or done something, anything differently. If you're widowed, your partner's absence is most acute at night. The empty side of the bed, the silence where their breathing used to be, the way you still sometimes reach for them before remembering they're not there. Grief doesn't disappear. It just becomes familiar. You learn to carry it. You learn to live with this emptiness that used to be fullness. If you've never married, you think about the life you chose or the life that chose you, the independence, the freedom, the solitude. Some nights, this feels like victory. Other nights, it feels like loss. Most nights, it just feels like your life, neither good nor bad, simply what is. You think about loneliness, even if you're not alone, even if there's someone sleeping beside you right now. Because loneliness isn't always about physical solitude. Sometimes it's about the distance between your internal experience and your ability to share that experience. Sometimes it's about lying next to someone you love and feeling utterly alone because they're asleep and you're awake and you can't reach them across that divide. You think about sex, about how it's changed, about how your body has changed, about desire that hasn't disappeared but has become more complicated. The mechanics are harder now. Bodies that used to respond easily now require patience, preparation, accommodation. You might take medications that help. You might use products that make things more comfortable. You might have given up entirely, and that loss sits heavy even if you don't discuss it. If you have a partner, you navigate these changes together, or you try to. Communication helps, supposedly. But talking about sexual dysfunction with someone you've been intimate with for years is harder than strangers realize. So maybe you don't talk about it. Maybe you just let it quietly fade. This whole realm of connection becoming first rare, then rarer, then a memory. You think about your career, whether you're still working or retired. If you're still working, you wonder how much longer you can maintain the pace, whether you're still valued or merely tolerated, whether younger colleagues see you as experienced or obsolete. If you're retired, you wonder if what you accomplished mattered, if anyone will remember, if the years of effort added up to anything meaningful. You think about money, about whether you've saved enough, whether your retirement funds will last, whether some unexpected expense will destroy your carefully constructed security. These are practical concerns during the day. At night, they become existential fears. Your mind takes reasonable worries and expands them into catastrophes. You'll run out of money. You'll lose your home. You'll become a burden to your children. You know you're catastrophizing. Knowing this doesn't stop it. The clock is your enemy and your compulsion. You know you shouldn't look at it. Every sleep expert says the same thing. Don't check the time. It creates anxiety. It makes sleep harder. You know this, you believe this, and yet you look. Because not knowing feels worse. You need to know if it's midnight or 3. You need to calculate how much sleep you might still get if you fall asleep right now. But looking at the clock starts a cascade of thoughts. It's 2:30. You've been in bed since 10. That's 4.5 hours of lying here awake. If you fall asleep right now, you can still get 4 hours before your alarm. 4 hours is manageable. You've functioned on less. But 5 minutes pass, then 10, then 20. Now you're down to 3.5 hours, then 3. The window of adequate sleep closes minute by minute. and you're aware of each one passing. This awareness, of course, makes sleep impossible. So you lie there, trying every technique you've learned over the years. Deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, counting backward from 100, imagining peaceful scenes. None of it works consistently. Some of it works sometimes. Tonight, it's not working at all. You consider getting up. The experts say if you can't sleep after 20 minutes, you should get up and do something boring in dim light. Read something tedious. Avoid screens. But getting up requires energy. It requires acknowledging defeat. It requires hauling yourself out of bed when you're comfortable, even if you're not sleeping. So you stay. You continue lying here. You continue trying. You continue failing. And the night continues passing, hour by hour, while you remain awake, aware, alone with your thoughts. Your bladder has opinions about nighttime now. Opinions it expresses frequently and urgently. You used to sleep through the night without waking. Now you wake at least once, usually twice, sometimes 3 times. Your bladder, which used to be cooperative, now insists on emptying at 2 and 4 and 5:30. You navigate these trips in the dark, knowing your route by memory. Bathroom, back to bed, trying desperately not to wake up fully. But once you're up, you're up. Your mind activates. And now you're thinking about something you said yesterday that came out wrong, or the appointment you forgot to make, or whether you locked the back door, or anything and everything except the nothing you need to be thinking to facilitate sleep. You return to bed, and the cycle continues. The lying, the thinking, the trying not to think, the awareness of time passing, the growing frustration, the exhaustion that won't translate into sleep. And underneath all of this, underneath all the small discomforts and nocturnal thoughts and struggles with your body, there's a deeper current, a quiet awareness that's hard to name but impossible to ignore. You're changing, not just physically, though that's obvious enough, but fundamentally. The person you were at 30 is not the person you are now, and the person you are now is not the person you'll be at 70 or 80 or 90, if you're fortunate enough to reach those ages. This transformation is happening slowly, so slowly you can barely perceive it day to day. But lying in bed at night, you feel it. You feel yourself becoming someone different, someone older, someone softer in some ways and harder in others. Someone who knows things your younger self didn't know. Someone who has lost things your younger self took for granted. This isn't sad, exactly. It's just true. You're aging. Your body is aging. Your mind is aging. Your understanding of the world and your place in it is aging. And lying here, in this bed, in this darkness, you confront this reality in ways you can avoid during daylight. The night is honest, brutally so sometimes. It strips away pretense. It removes distraction. It leaves you alone with fundamental truths you'd rather not examine. You're mortal. You're aging. You're closer to the end than to the beginning. Your time is limited. Your body is failing in small ways that will become larger ways. The people you love will die, or you will die and leave them. Nothing lasts. Everything changes. all of this is temporary. These truths are hard, but they're also, in a strange way, clarifying. Because here's what happens when you lie in bed night after night, confronting these truths. You start to understand something fundamental about being human at this age. You start to realize that the sleeplessness itself carries a message. That these wakeful hours aren't punishments or failures. They're invitations. Invitations to know yourself more deeply, to reflect more honestly, to make peace with what cannot be changed. Your younger self could sleep through anything, because your younger self hadn't accumulated enough life to process. You had fewer memories to sort through, fewer relationships to examine, fewer regrets to reconcile, fewer losses to integrate. Sleep came easily because your inner world was simpler, less populated, less demanding of your attention. Now your inner world is vast. Decades of experiences live inside you. Thousands of conversations, hundreds of relationships, countless moments of joy and pain, and everything between. All of this needs processing. All of this needs integration. And the quiet hours of night are when this work happens, whether you consciously choose it or not. So perhaps the sleeplessness isn't the problem. Perhaps it's the solution. Your psyche creating space for necessary reflection. Your mind refusing to shut down because there's important work to do. Work that can only happen in silence and darkness and solitude. Work of making meaning from all you've lived. You lie here and you remember, not just the big moments, the small ones too. The afternoon you spent with your grandmother when you were 12, listening to her stories. The way your first apartment smelled. The exact color of the sky the day your child was born. The feeling of your father's hand on your shoulder. The taste of your mother's cooking. The sound of rain on the roof of the house you grew up in. These memories surface without warning. They arrive fully formed, vivid, immediate, and they ask something of you. They ask to be witnessed, to be honored, to be held gently in your awareness before they fade back into the vast archive of your lived experience. Your grandmother is gone now. That apartment is gone. Your child is grown. Your father's hand will never rest on your shoulder again. Your mother's kitchen exists only in memory. That house belongs to strangers. Everything has changed. Everything is changing. Everything will continue changing until you yourself become a memory in someone else's sleepless night. This awareness could be devastating. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's oddly comforting. You're part of something larger, part of the great cycle of living and dying, and being remembered and being forgotten. Everyone who came before you experienced this. Everyone who comes after you will experience it too. You're not special in your mortality. You're not unique in your losses. You're simply human, moving through the same arc every human moves through. And lying here at night, you feel connected to all of it, to your ancestors who lay awake worrying about their children, to future generations who will lie awake worrying about theirs, to every person across the world right now who's also awake, also thinking, also navigating the strange territory of aging in a body that's becoming unfamiliar. You think about your siblings, if you have them, the people who share your history, who remember your childhood, who knew your parents as parents, not as the elderly people they became. Your siblings are growing old alongside you, if they're still here. You see it in their faces during holiday gatherings. The same changes you see in your own mirror, the same softening and sagging and graying. You're walking this path together, but also separately. Each of you experiencing aging differently. Each carrying different memories of the same childhood. Each navigating different challenges in your adult lives. You're connected by blood and history, but you're also fundamentally separate, living your own lives, making your own meanings, finding your own ways through. If you've lost a sibling, their absence is particularly acute. They were supposed to grow old with you. They were supposed to be there for the reminiscing, for the comparing of notes, for the shared understanding of where you came from. Their death disrupted the natural order. It left you carrying memories that only they could fully understand. It made you more alone in your history. You think about all the people you've lost. The list grows longer as you age. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, colleagues, neighbors. Some deaths were expected. Others were shocking. Some you grieved intensely. Others you noted and moved on from because life demanded continuation and you had no choice but to provide it. But lying here at night, you feel all these absences. The accumulated weight of everyone who's gone. The spaces they used to occupy. The roles they used to fill. The conversations you can no longer have. The questions you can no longer ask. The love that has nowhere to land except memory. Grief is strange at this age. You've had practice with it by now. You know how it works, how it comes in waves, how it ambushes you at unexpected moments, how it softens over time but never fully disappears. You've learned to carry grief the way you carry everything else, as part of the load, as part of being human, as the price of loving people who won't live forever. You think about what you'll leave behind, not just possessions, though you think about those too, the stuff you've accumulated, the things that seemed important when you acquired them, but now just clutter your space. You wonder who'll want any of it when you're gone. Who'll sort through your belongings and decide what has value and what gets donated or discarded. Your children might want some things. Photos. A few pieces of furniture with sentimental meaning. Your mother's ring. Your father's watch. But most of what you own will mean nothing to them. They have their own lives, their own stuff, their own attachments. Your treasures are just objects to them. Useful or not useful. Wanted or not wanted. This bothers you sometimes. The idea that your carefully curated life will be dismantled so quickly. That the home you've built will be emptied and sold. That your possessions will scatter to strangers or trash heaps. That the physical evidence of your existence will disappear so completely. But other times you find freedom in this knowledge. It releases you from attachment. It helps you see your possessions for what they are. Temporary, useful for now, but not ultimately important. What matters isn't the stuff. It's the life you lived, the relationships you nurtured, the moments you experienced, the person you became. None of that can be sorted and discarded. It lives in a different realm entirely. You think about the smaller legacies, the things you've taught people, the wisdom you've shared, the example you've set. Your children carry pieces of you in how they move through the world. Your grandchildren, if you have them, will carry pieces too, even if they don't remember you clearly. You've influenced people in ways you'll never fully know. Tiny moments of connection that mattered more than you realized at the time. The cashier you were kind to on a bad day. The neighbor you helped when they needed it. The friend you listened to when they were struggling. The stranger you smiled at in passing. These moments ripple outward in ways you can't track. You've made the world slightly better or slightly worse with every interaction. Mostly better, you hope. Mostly you've tried to be decent, to be kind, to do no harm. You think about faith again, but differently now. Not religious faith necessarily. Faith in the broader sense. Trust that life has meaning even when you can't see it. Trust that your existence matters even if you don't accomplish anything remarkable. Trust that love is real and valuable and worth the pain it inevitably brings. Trust that there's something beyond yourself, whether that's God or the universe, or the simple fact of human connection across time. This faith isn't constant. Some nights you have it, other nights you don't. Some nights you lie here feeling certain that everything means something. Other nights you lie here feeling equally certain that nothing means anything. And we're all just randomly occurring patterns of matter and energy with no deeper significance. Both cannot be true simultaneously. Yet you hold both possibilities. You live in the tension between meaning and meaninglessness, between significance and insignificance, between mattering and not mattering. You don't resolve this tension. You just hold it. You let it be complex. You let yourself not know. This takes a particular kind of strength. The strength to live without certainty. The strength to keep going even when you're not sure why you're going, or where you're going, or whether going matters. You do it anyway. You get up every morning. You continue. You persist. This is faith too. Faith in continuation itself. You think about pleasure again, about joy, about delight, about the things that still make you happy despite everything, despite the pain and fear and loss and decline. There are still good things, still moments worth having, still experiences that make you glad to be alive. The first sip of coffee in the morning, the way sunlight looks on your kitchen table, the sound of birds outside your window, the feeling of warm water in the shower, the softness of your favorite sweater, the taste of something delicious, the laugh of someone you love, the satisfaction of completing a task, the quiet of early morning before the world wakes up. These pleasures are simple, modest, unremarkable to anyone else. But they're yours. They're real. They're available to you almost every day if you remember to notice them. And noticing them changes everything. It changes the ratio of good to bad in your experience. It tips the scale just slightly toward gladness rather than sadness. You're learning to savor these moments deliberately, to pause in them, to let them register fully, to say internally, this is good, this right here, this moment, this small, perfect thing. You're learning that happiness isn't a destination you reach by solving all your problems. It's a practice of noticing what's already good while the problems continue existing. Your problems will never all be solved. There will always be something wrong, something hurting, something worrying you, something requiring attention or effort or management. That's just how life works, especially at this age. The challenges don't disappear. They accumulate, they compound, they become part of the daily landscape. But so do the pleasures, if you let them. If you practice noticing, if you deliberately turn your attention toward what's working instead of only toward what's broken, both exist simultaneously. Pain and pleasure, worry and peace, decline and beauty. You get to choose where you place your attention. Not all the time, but more than you think. You think about your daily routines, the structure you've built around your days, the habits that organize your time. These routines have become more important as you've aged. They provide stability when everything else feels uncertain. They give you something to hold on to when you feel adrift. You wake at roughly the same time. You make coffee the same way. You eat similar breakfasts. You move through your morning following patterns you've established over years. There's comfort in this repetition, safety in predictability. Your routines are like guardrails, keeping you on the path when you're too tired to navigate carefully. But sometimes the routines feel oppressive, like they're all you have left, like your life has shrunk to this small set of repeated actions. Wake, eat, manage body, fill time, eat, manage body, sleep. Repeat. Where's the adventure? Where's the spontaneity? Where's the vitality you used to have? You try to balance routine with novelty, to keep some structure while staying open to new experiences. But new experiences require energy you often don't have. They require stepping outside comfort zones that have become very comfortable for good reasons. They require risk when you're increasingly aware of vulnerability. So mostly, you stick with routines, with the known, with the manageable. And you tell yourself, this is okay. That stability is valuable. That there's wisdom in knowing your limits and respecting them. That you've had enough adventure for one lifetime and now you're entitled to consistency and peace. But some part of you misses the person who took risks, who tried new things, who felt brave and capable and curious. That person still exists inside you somewhere. Quieter now, more cautious, but not entirely gone. Sometimes you can still feel her stirring, wanting something more, wanting to break routine, wanting to feel alive in the way you used to feel alive. You think about your relationship with technology, how it's changed your life in ways you couldn't have imagined when you were young, how you can now video call grandchildren across the country, how you can look up any information instantly, how you can stay connected to people who would otherwise fade from your life. But also how overwhelming it all is, how much there is to learn, how quickly things change, how often you need help from younger people to figure out basic tasks, how incompetent you sometimes feel when technology that's supposed to be intuitive completely baffles you. You've adapted though. You've learned. Maybe not everything, Maybe not as quickly as younger people, but you've learned enough. You can send emails and texts. You can use your phone for more than just calls. You can navigate the internet well enough to find what you need. You're not as helpless as you sometimes feel. And lying here at night, you appreciate what technology gives you. The ability to send a quick message to your child, to see photos of your grandchildren, to read articles about topics that interest you, to listen to music from your youth, to watch videos of places you'll never visit, to stay connected to a world that's easy to feel disconnected from. You think about time again, how differently you experience it now, how fast it moves, how a week passes in what feels like a day, how months blend together, how you can't quite believe it's already December again, already another birthday, already another year gone. Time accelerated as you aged. The days themselves aren't shorter, but the years are. They slip past with terrifying speed. You turned 55, what feels like last month, but was actually years ago. You had your last birthday, what feels like weeks ago, but was months back. Time is playing tricks on you, moving faster when you want it slower, when you need it to slow down because there's less of it left. You try to slow time by being present, by noticing moments deliberately, by not rushing through days on autopilot. This helps sometimes. A day where you're fully present feels longer, richer, more substantial. But it's hard to maintain that level of awareness constantly. You slip back into autopilot. You let days pass without really seeing them. And then you wonder where they went. You think about death. Not morbidly, just practically. You're old enough now that death is no longer abstract. It's approaching. Not immediately, maybe, but approaching. You've seen friends die. You've attended funerals. You've stood beside graves. You know what comes next because you've witnessed it. The question isn't whether you'll die. You will. Everyone does. The question is when and how. Will you have time to prepare? Will it be sudden? Will there be pain? Will you be aware? Will you be afraid? These questions have no answers yet, but they exist in your mind, especially at night, especially in the quiet. You've thought about what you want, how you want to die if you have any choice in the matter. At home, if possible, with people you love nearby, with dignity intact as much as possible, without prolonged suffering. These are hopes, not guarantees. Death doesn't often cooperate with preferences, but you can at least clarify what you want. You can make your wishes known. You can try to spare your loved ones difficult decisions by making some decisions yourself. You've thought about your funeral, if you're honest, what you want said or not said, what music you want played, whether you want burial or cremation, what you want done with your remains. These seem like morbid considerations, but they are actually practical ones. You're planning ahead. You're taking care of details so others don't have to. And thinking about your funeral makes you think about your life, about what you'd want remembered. Not accomplishments necessarily, but qualities. The kind of person you were, how you treated people, what you valued, what you stood for. These seem more important than achievements or status or any external measure of success. You want to be remembered as kind, as loving, as someone who tried, who showed up, who did their best even when their best wasn't very good. You want to be remembered as human, flawed but decent, imperfect but well-intentioned, real. You think about forgiveness, both giving it and receiving it. You've been hurt by people over the years, betrayed, disappointed, let down. Some of these wounds have healed, others haven't. You carry them still, small sore spots that occasionally ache when something touches them. You've tried to forgive, you've wanted to forgive, but forgiveness is harder than people make it sound. It's not just a decision you make once. It's a practice you maintain, a choice you remake repeatedly when the hurt resurfaces. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you think you've forgiven someone, and then something triggers the old anger and you realize the forgiveness wasn't complete. But you keep trying, because carrying grudges is exhausting, because resentment hurts you more than it hurts the people you resent, because life is too short to spend it bitter. You've learned this slowly. You're still learning it, but you're making progress. You're softer than you used to be, more willing to let things go, more willing to assume good intentions even when impact was harmful. And you think about the forgiveness you need, the people you've hurt, the mistakes you've made, the times you were cruel or thoughtless or selfish. You carry guilt about some of these incidents. You wish you could apologize. Some people are gone now, unreachable. Some are still here, but the relationship is too damaged to repair. Some might forgive you if you asked, but you're too afraid or proud to ask. You forgive yourself when you can. You extend to yourself the same compassion you try to extend to others. You were doing your best with what you knew. You were wounded yourself. You were young or scared or overwhelmed. You made mistakes, but you also learned from them. You've grown. You've changed. You're not the same person who did those harmful things. This self-forgiveness is ongoing work. Some days you manage it. Other days, you lie here at night cataloging your failures and feeling ashamed. But you're gentler with yourself than you used to be, more understanding, more willing to see yourself as human rather than as someone who should be perfect. You think about love, how it's evolved over your lifetime, the passionate love of youth, the comfortable love of middle age, the tender love of later years. Each stage brought different gifts, different challenges, different understandings of what love means. Now love feels less like intensity and more like presence, less like fireworks and more like steady warmth, less like need and more like choice. You love the people you love, not because they complete you, but because you choose them, daily, deliberately, despite flaws and annoyances and the familiarity that can breed contempt if you're not careful. Your love has depth now that it didn't have before. Layers of shared history, years of showing up for each other, memories of supporting each other through difficulties, trust built slowly over decades. This kind of love isn't exciting in the way new love is exciting, but it's sturdy, reliable, real. You're grateful for this love, for the people who've stayed, who've chosen you repeatedly, who see you clearly and love you anyway. This is the miracle of long-term relationships, being fully known and still fully accepted, having someone witness your worst and stick around, having someone celebrate your best without resentment. If you don't have this kind of love currently, you remember times when you did, or you long for it, or you've made peace with its absence, or you're still angry about not having it, or you've found other forms of love that sustain you. Friendship, family, community, self-love, connection to something larger than yourself. Love takes many forms. It shows up in many ways. And lying here at night, you can feel grateful for whatever love you've experienced. Whatever love currently exists in your life. Whatever love you've given and received over your lifetime. It's been enough. Maybe not always. Maybe not perfectly, but enough. You think about legacy one more time. What you're leaving, what will remain, and you realize the grandest legacy is simply this. You were here, you existed, you lived, you loved, you tried, you failed sometimes, you succeeded sometimes, you were fully, completely, messily human. That's enough. That's all anyone does. That's all anyone can do. Be here. Be real. Be present to your own life. Make meaning where you can. Love who you can. Try your best. Forgive yourself when your best isn't good enough. Continue anyway. The night is ending now. You can feel it. The darkness is lifting gradually. Dawn is approaching. You may have slept. You may not have. Either way, you've made it through another night. You've survived these hours of wakefulness and reflection and honest reckoning with who you are and where you are and how you got here. And that's victory enough. Making it through, continuing, persisting, being here to greet another morning, to face another day, to live another portion of this precious, difficult, beautiful life you've been given. So rest now. Let your mind quiet. Let your body relax. Let yourself drift if sleep will come. If it won't, just rest in knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, being exactly who you need to be. You're enough. You've always been enough. You'll always be enough. The fires die down, the stories settle, and the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night. You've journeyed far through time tonight. Now it's time to journey into dreams. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.